Hey everyone, Tom Gentile. Welcome to the Profit Strategies Podcast. It's Friday, March 14th, 2024. I'm going to settle in on three things here today. I want to talk about Bitcoin again. I want to talk about that TikTok ban, who it hurts and who it helps, and really what stocks I'm looking at on this if that actually happens. And then I want to finish up with system trading, as part of our never-ending knowledge series. So, before I get going here, I mean on Bitcoin, I don't know if you guys saw it earlier in the week, but Elon Musk, in his musky ways, put out a post on X that was formerly known as Twitter, or maybe he just forwarded something that someone else had put out because he thought it was funny. And it said, okay, these scam coins, I'm reading this straight from X, all right? Okay, these scam coins are getting crazy. There's 27 trillion in circulation, unlimited supply cap, only one node. 25% of the supply is minted in the last 6 months, and 1% of the holders own 30%. Just kidding. That's the US dollar. Oh my God. I had to read that twice to get it. I'm really sucked in. What scam coins are we talking about? Maybe I need to write this down. Just kidding. That's the US dollar. Unbelievable. We had new all-time highs this week. Many of you know that. You don't have to go too far to realize now that Bitcoin is above 70,000. It's funny, in the last couple of weeks, gone from the 50s to the 60s to the 70s. Are we going up into the 80s next week? Who knows? What's been happening is, just think about it for a bit. There's been consolidation and stair stepping up to the next move higher, and consolidation and stair stepping. That's been happening every week. Now we're consolidating right now in the low 70s. So I would believe we need to get to the high 70s before we get into the 80s. What does my wife say? Every time I say something that's doesn't even need to be said. What does she call me? She calls me Captain Obvious. So Captain Obvious says, before we get into the 80s, we got to get to the high 70s. Absolutely right. News this week. Most of the news that Bloomberg was talking about, CoinDesk was talking about, Reuters, all about Bitcoin jumping above 70,000, all-time highs, record inflows. So this is a big reason. A lot of people are asking why. Why is this continuing to happen? I think it's a couple of things. You see the record inflows. You see that old money coming in, that old money that was never going to come to Bitcoin. You know why? Because they don't trust it. Because they've been told, a lot of people, the older generation, the baby boomers, maybe even some of the Gen Xers have been told that cryptocurrency is risky. And all they've heard about is the scams. If someone tells you to go to a Bitcoin ATM machine or get gift cards, run away. That's not what you want to do. If someone tells you that your life is in danger unless you do X, you run away. And so, the older generation has been turned off to cryptocurrency because of all the bad things they've heard about it. Now, I tell you this because ever since BlackRock, you got to give kudos to BlackRock because they're the ones that got the job done. They got the spot ETFs to be approved by the government, and then everybody else jumped on afterwards. But that's where the old money's coming from. All the old money's going, oh, here's something where I can invest in Bitcoin, I can invest in cryptocurrency, but I've got the regulators. The regulators got my back. And so these inflows have come in. There has been some outflows out of GBTC, but it's because the smart people realize that they can put their money to work somewhere else for a lower management fee. But that's slowing. GBTC The outflows are slowing, and yet inflows are coming in. And then earlier this week, Europe is relaxing their rules. Parts of Europe are relaxing the rules, and now they're looking into the first spot ETFs. I think they call them ETNs over there. I don't know. So somebody in Europe let me know about that. Anyway, they're relaxing rules. This is what pushed us into the 70s at 2 a.m. in the morning, I think on a Tuesday earlier in the week. So this is the kind of news stories that we're hearing about. In Thailand is going to allow asset firms, their own firms, to access spot ETFs. Now they're doing that for professional investors, but that's great. They're greenlighting this for the institutional traders and the wealthy traders that are over in Thailand. So, and then you've got Goldman Sachs, and you've got, banks like Goldman Sachs, you got banks like New York Mellon. They're now testing blockchain network with other firms. All of this stuff has just been nothing but positive news for Bitcoin, positive news for Ethereum. And if you've heard me say it, I'm going to say it again. You want my projections? Here's my projections. There is a very good possibility that between now, and next month, in the next 30 days, that Bitcoin is going to be hovering somewhere between, and it's a wide number, folks, because you're looking at the mouth of a cone that's getting wider and wider. When you run the technical analysis, when you look at all the highs that Bitcoin has done, just, go back to 2018. Take the high from 2017, that high during the Christmas holiday break during 2017, and then go look at the highs that happened at the end of 2022 and connect those together. And that's going to throw that chart somewhere between 87,000 to 109,000 for BTC. And I believe there's a very good possibility that we could hit that part of the cone in the next month. I'm going to tell you why in a moment. Now, on the lower end of the cone, because the cone gets wide, trendline support for Bitcoin could be as low as 30,000. Now, I say that because I'm, just looking at the trend lines. That's what they show. I don't think Bitcoin is going back to 30,000 per se. But what I do see is I see this continued push to go higher because now you've got institutions that are driving this. I mean, think about it, folks. Let's add up a couple things. Number one, right now there are roughly 20 million Bitcoin that are out there in circulation, but 90% of them are not being traded. 90% of them are either A, lost forever. That to me, that's a supply issue that's gonna cause Bitcoin to move higher. Or B, being held by what we call hodlers and whales, and C, being accumulated by big firms. And I'm not talking about just Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy. I'm talking about BlackRock. I'm talking about Invesco. All the firms, the dozen or so firms that now have Bitcoin spot ETFs. They have to buy these things and hold them based on the inflows that are happening right now. So if they start getting outflows, they're going to sell because they have to sell to convert to cash to handle the outflows. That's not happening right now. Nothing but inflows are going on, which means they're still accumulating, which is why we're seeing consolidation and step up and consolidation and step up. Now, why is April so important to me? Because the halving happens in April, okay? The halving. What is the halving? All right. So the halving is basically where we see the rewards to miners as miners digitally mine for Bitcoin and they add value to the block, into the blockchain, they are rewarded in Bitcoin. Now, this is before I was mining, because I was mining back in 2013 and I missed the first rewards that were going out that went out all the way into 2012. And that was 50 Bitcoins when you mined and and you solved a block, which added to the blockchain. This is how this works. You were rewarded with 50 Bitcoin. By the time I got involved in mining, they had already halved the rewards to where miners were only receiving 25 Bitcoin. So that went on for a few years. And then 25 dropped to 12 and a half. It was halved again. Again, we went from 50 to 25, from 25 to 12 and a half. From 12 and a half, we've gone to 6 and a quarter. That was in 2020. And 6 and a quarter is going to be 3.125 next month. So do you see where we're going here? The rewards are getting less. And what the folks out in Bitcoin world see is less supply is coming on. And as less supply is coming on and more demand is coming in, that equals higher Bitcoin prices. Okay. Now, let's talk about Ethereum. Again, keep these two numbers in mind, 87,000 to 109,000. There's a possibility that we're going to see 100,000 plus price for Bitcoin within the next 30 days. If that happens, I'm going to look to figure out how I best handle my investment in Bitcoin. And that might mean it's time to asset allocate. I'm just going to say that. Not all of it. No, I'm talking some of it. But now that moves me to Ethereum. Let's talk about Ethereum for a moment. Because Ethereum, I believe, is going to be the next alpha. I think Ethereum is going to take over, and I think it's going to happen after the halving. Because the halving is what everybody's looking forward to now. Inflows and the halving. And so once that occurs, then I think the eyeballs are going to start to look more and more to Ethereum. So you're going to see Ethereum become the front page. It's going to be the front page article. And you're going to see the big news that's going to come out of Ethereum is going to be the BlackRock has already filed for a spot ETF for Ethereum. Now, I think they're going to get it. And I also think those dozen or so that are following BlackRock will follow them again, and that will spike Ethereum. Where does Ethereum go to? Well, Ethereum's all-time high is around 4,800. Ethereum hit, what was it, 4,150 earlier this week? I mean, we're well on our way. We're still almost 20% below the all-time highs. But that's also something I think that we could hit the all-time highs in the next 30 days because Ethereum's moving along with Bitcoin. But I think Ethereum takes off and becomes, the resistance I see is 5,700. I don't think that's going to happen in 30 days. I think that's going to happen later in the year. And so what's good for Bitcoin is good for Ethereum. What's good for Ethereum is good for, guess what? Altcoins. The stuff that I really like to look for, those altcoins, which are really, they're going to be, I think altcoins, the smaller coins, are going to become the alpha in the world. They already are, but they're really going to start taking off and become those alpha coins again. I think that's going to happen in the back half of this year. It's what history has shown us. Okay. So, there's another question that came up, and I'm going to answer it, but I'm not going to do it here. The question that's coming up that I'm seeing right now also is, why are there, Bitcoin's going up, Ethereum's going up, there's ETFs are all going up, but not all Bitcoin stocks are going higher. And there's a few of them. I'm going to throw one of them at you right now. When you're done listening to this podcast, go take a look at Riot Blockchain. Because the Bitcoin tide is not lifting all boats. I'm going to get into a video next week where I'm actually going to do a video, a detailed video on Bitcoin and projections and what has really moved higher with Bitcoin, but then why this tide is not lifting all boats. So I'm going to leave it there, but check out my video next week because I will detail that out. and we'll talk about what's moving higher, what's going to tend to move the most with this move up in the next potentially 30 days, and what you want to stay away from. What stocks you do not want to buy if you expect Bitcoin to move higher. All right. So earlier this week, the U.S. House of Representatives, that's where I go when I want to trade and I want to, make sure that that's where I should be. I should be watching Nancy Pelosi. But, when I want to see all things truth, I want to go to the U.S. House of Representatives. They voted earlier this week to ban TikTok in the U.S., okay? Unless China or the Chinese parent company, I think it's called ByteDance, gets more popular into social video networks in the U.S. So this is an interesting one. Joe Biden's already come on board saying that he's going to pass this bill if it passes into the Senate. Now, what's interesting is that, I look at this news and I believe I heard Donald Trump say that he's not sure that that's the right move to make. Isn't this the same guy that actually banned it 4 years ago? So when I think about it, a lot of things go through my head, and I think about, contrarian trading, and I think about contrarians as a whole. And I think, does Donald Trump just want to be on the other side of everything that goes on with the Biden administration? Or does he secretly want to ban TikTok and has now finally figured out that whatever he says, that the majority of the other side is going to want to do the opposite? Maybe he wants to ban TikTok. And he's thinking, maybe the best thing I can do to ban TikTok is say that I don't want to ban TikTok. Now, a ban in TikTok, there's 170 million U.S. monthly active users, okay? They use TikTok. About 5 billion businesses use TikTok. And I have to think, where is all of that business and where is all those active users likely to go? Now, apparently, there's already a block on TikTok and TikTok. I'm going to say that a lot. That's the Gen Xer in me. TikTok. There's already a ban in TikTok in Montana. We know this, okay? But then a federal judge blocked that ban. So Montana banned it already, and then a federal judge came out and blocked it because it infringed on First Amendment rights. So, you've got these potential bans coming. Now, if you look at TikTok, look at their annual growth history. It exploded in the beginning. In the last 4 years, it's gone crazy. But they've had their worst quarter. The last quarter has been their worst quarter in annual user growth in the history of the company. Now, there's been other news stories I've read on this. There was a news story I read just yesterday that said lives would be affected by this ban, that lives would be in danger, and that lives would be affected. Come on, in danger? I got to think. I can't think of lives being in danger because of social media, because of one social media app. Honestly, I think it'd be positive. Be a positive move in my household. You know how hard it is to put the phone down once you get on this app? You're the only thing that's moving is your finger as you're moving from page after page. And so, you got to think this must be there's a political action committee that's going to come out, that's going to push for content creators. And, China's going to probably be at the heart of a political action committee to keep TikTok running in the U.S. That makes me think, I think I'm going to start a political action committee. I'm going to call it MAT, Men Against TikTok. Men, do you have problems with your spouse right now not giving you attention because she's too busy getting that TikTok fixed day after day, reel after reel, swipe after swipe? Join Matt and get your women back. No, I'm just kidding. But you know what? Seriously, though, who does this affect? Obviously, it affects TikTok to the downside, but you know who I think it affects to the upside? Where are those advertisers going to put those dollars? because that's what I'm thinking about. Yes, active users might move, but I'm telling you what, those advertisers, they're gonna move because they've got that advertising budget and they've got to put it to work. You know where they're going to put it to work? In 3 areas. They're going to put it to work in Meta. Okay. I look at Meta platforms. I mean, Zuckerberg ought to change that name back to Facebook because that's where all the money's being made right now. It's not being made in the Oculus part or the VR part of the company. They're just spending money in VR. But I mean, have you seen and outside of Facebook, have any of you seen Decentraland? That's that place where everyone was buying digital land. That place is a ghost town right now. But coming back to Meta, Meta's had an absolutely stellar 2024 so far. Started out at $350 a share. I mean, we're at 500 right now. It was at 525. I think the ban on TikTok makes Meta go even higher. We go to new all-time highs. Google, and I think Google is probably the one that's really that was the most valuable of the Mag 7. I thought when it double bottomed down there around around 130, 132. It's already up 10 points. I see it going back into the mid 150s. That's Google. But the one that I think has the best potential for and I'm talking about the rumor, not the news. The one that has the best potential right now, in my mind, to still take off. And it's not Meta and it's not Google, although I think those two are going to head higher. They definitely is the most conservative. But you want an aggressive play? Look at Snap. Snap is still trading down there at that, it was $17, $18 before they came out with their earnings report and their guidance. And all of a sudden this thing dropped. What did it drop down to? 11 and a half? I mean, it was down below 11. It's trading around 11 and a half right now. But I mean, the gap was around 15. There's a potential here for, a 40% move to the upside. I think there's a potential there. Just keep that in mind. It's the most aggressive trade you could do, but it's potentially there, right? But, the one thing that I'm talking about here with Meta and with Google and with Snap is that these are all based on an if TikTok gets banned, not when. So, if you look at Meta is a stock that's moving like it doesn't even care. It's like a freight train heading north. So if you were looking at trend, that's the best trend. If you're looking at rebound, like a contrarian play, Google has definitely been moving like a contrarian. It's like all of a sudden it's squeezing out the shorts. Take a look at it. It's 50% off of its highs to lows right now. And then if you take a look at Snap looks like more of a volatility-based strategy where we really needed to get above $12.50 before it starts to look good. So one looks like a buy regardless. One looks like a buy contrarian style, and one looks like a buy volatility style. What I'm talking about, folks, are trading systems. And what is a trading system? Okay. To me, a trading system is the research of a pattern in the market that takes place repeatedly. And then what we do is we look at those repetitions and we try to find a way to make a profit from those. Now, those patterns can be, I look at 5 different, and they're not all, these are not all trading systems, but these are the ones I follow. Trending, contrarian, seasonal, volatility, and statistical. And statistical can be, that can be something where we're looking at statistics based on range of price or movement, or it could even be fundamental statistics, like what earnings numbers look like. Do they statistically move higher? Do they statistically move lower? So, a statistician is like a scout. But those are the 5 different types of systems that I follow. Whatever a system is in your mind, it has to be something that's automatic. It's got to be repeatable, something that cannot be second guessed. And it has to have rules for both entry and exit. To me, that's what a true trading system is. Now, maybe you don't think you need a system. Okay. I mean, maybe you think all you need to do is just buy a bunch of call options because you think something might go up. Maybe that's what you think a system is, right? Wrong. I see traders who lose money regularly. And the top 3 reasons that I believe they lose money are as follows. Number 1, they guess the market direction based on emotion. I like to call those folks meme traders. Okay? We flushed out a lot of the meme traders, but let me tell you where the meme traders are going to be going here real soon. You see what's going on with Bitcoin and Ethereum? All the meme traders are there now. They're going to be there. And they're going to follow one guy who used to be a construction worker last year that's now an expert on YouTube. And he's going to be saying, buy this, to the moon, to the moon. And they're not going to be talking about Bitcoin or Ethereum. They're going to be talking about some stupid coin like Shiba Inu. And or they're going to get into something that has a ton of leverage. And yeah, they might make a little bit of money in the interim. But what ends up happening is these folks will get in and they will start talking to their hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of followers. They'll get out, and most of those followers will end up not getting out or getting out for huge losses. That's the type of person. That's one of the type of people that get in. There's another type of person that loses money, and that's the one that buys a bunch of out of the money call options without understanding what it is they're purchasing. They look at a stock, they say, "Oh, that stock's $100," but the out of the money calls are 50 cents. So I'm going to spend, instead of buying 100 shares of the stock with my $10,000, and therefore the chance of it going from 100 to 0 is low, I'm going to buy $10,000 of 50-cent call options, because now if that $100 goes up, I can make a ton of money. And they buy maybe the 150 calls or the 125 calls. And they might even see the stock go in their favor, but those call options expire worthless. And they sit there with nothing and wonder what just happened. That's lack of knowledge, added with a scoop of emotion. And number 3 is buying options with short-term expirations. And that's those weeklies or those 0 DTE options without realizing at the end of that cycle, you're out. So it's funny, because if you only did the opposite of what these guys would do, you'd hardly ever lose money. So what can we do differently, folks? What can we do differently? Well, 2 out of those 3 I just gave you are easy. First, you buy quality options, not the out of the money ones. And second, give yourself enough time to be right. If you're looking at a pattern, and I'm just going to throw a pattern at you right now. This is a pattern that's happening with Bitcoin and Ethereum. This buy the rumor, sell the news. The rumor news pattern going on right now is going to be halving. That's supposed to happen around April 20th. So what you want to do is you want to treat this almost like a news event, like earnings, where if you're going to come in, you want to be out before the actual event happens. Because once the event happens, everybody's going to be hitting the exit door. You want to make sure you hit the exit door before the club closes. Keep that in mind. Okay? So let's not buy out of the money options too far out of the money. Second, let's give ourselves time to be right. And as far as building a system, I want you to think about these as we close up this week's podcast. Ask yourself a couple questions. What type of trader am I? All right. Am I a directional trader? Am I a non-directional trader? Maybe I'm both. Answering that question will help you determine what it is you want to do. What type of time frame do you like as a trader? Are you a yearly, monthly, weekly, or day trader, or somewhere in between? Now, you've heard me. I'm not a big fan of day trading. I'm sorry, I'm not. It requires too much energy for too few returns. I am somewhere, I sit somewhere in the 30-day realm. I like that paycheck, that monthly paycheck mentality. That's what I like. That's me. I'm not you though. You have to find what works for you. Next, based on those two type questions, what type of option strategy are you going to use to cut your risk, yet still keep the integrity of your system, what you're following as a system, in check? And then finally, do you have a broker that can execute for you so that the reality of your system comes as close as possible to the past hypothetical results? Okay. Now, I want to take future podcasts and I want to dive into these questions and I want to dive into them in more detail. What type of trader am I? What type of time frame do I use? What type of option strategy do I use? And what brokers best fit questions 1, 2, and 3? If this is something that you feel might be beneficial to you, then please comment below. Comment. Let me know what you think. If you think this is going to help you, I'm positive it's going to help you, but I want to know what you think, if this is going to help you or not. All right. Hey, folks, this is Tom Gentile. You're listening to the Profit Strategies podcast. Have a great weekend. Happy St. Patty's Day to everybody. I know that's coming up here real soon, and I'll see you all again next week. Bye now.